that's our entire recruitment strategy. Like, hey, you're the top guy at your current shop. What if I told you that you're in the middle or lower quartile here? And you're driven and you're ambitious and you want to prove that you can be the best. Well, the best is here. Like, we're outperforming your current company 3-1. How about you come over here and like see what it's like to work with winners?
Hello and welcome back to Untapped with UpSmith. We're really thrilled today to have John Wilson as our guest. John is the CEO of the Wilson Companies, the host of his own podcast, Owned and Operated, which you should check out. It is a great survey of some ways to build awesome businesses. John, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on and appreciate the plug.
Yeah, well, it's a really awesome podcast you built, and I think a great way for people to learn about how to make an impact. So kudos on what you're doing.
Yeah, I was talking about this with someone the other day. I'm not going to really plug it here, but I was talking with someone the other day about it, and they called me an industry influencer for plumbing, HVAC, and electric, and I was like, that's kind of odd, because I don't know that I think of myself that way. But I think the thing that people find impactful is that we've been openly sharing our journey on really anywhere, from LinkedIn to Twitter to a newsletter, for 5 years now. So like, you can see the decisions from when we were a $2.5 million company to now a $26 million company. You can actually watch the decisions being actively made as that transition happened, which I think people seem to find interesting.
I certainly think it's really cool. I'm really excited to have you aboard to learn and to share some of those anecdotes. And a lot of folks that listen to our podcast are building companies and they're thinking about strategies or things to deploy. We try to help them out by giving them access to some influencers, right? Folks that are doing cool things, and well on your way to the big goal of $100 million revenue business before long.
Yeah, we're chasing down 100 million like our life depends on it. People ask why, and it's probably just ego. Like, I want to prove to myself that I can do it. I have nothing to prove to anybody else. I want to prove to myself that I can do it.
Well, I have full confidence that you will. Let's kick off just by sharing a little bit for folks that are not as familiar with your story, more on your background and how you got to be focused on what you're focused on. Yeah.
So I'm John Wilson. I'm a third generation plumber in Northeast Ohio. So in 1958, my grandfather Ralph started Wilson Plumbing and Heating. $500 in a pickup truck is the anecdote there. My dad bought it in the mid 80s. He grew it a little bit on the back of boilers and bathroom models. And then I bought it in 2016. And at that time, it was about $1 million of sales and 8 people on the team. From then, we've obviously grown a lot. Some of that I will take credit for. Some of it, I was at the right place at the right time. The trades went through a really big sort of disruption in the mid 2010s, where Google PPC became a thing, LSAs became a thing, Service Titan became a thing, reviews became a thing. So suddenly an upstart like me could dethrone incumbent players, which is exactly what happened. We passed our largest competitors like they were standing still. So it was a really interesting time to come into that space, and I know a lot of people that have built really big businesses since then. So we're plumbing, HVAC, electric, residential service and replacement. We've acquired 9 other brands, working on our 10th right now. And we've grown a lot through just hiring, marketing, and acquiring. So we're actively figuring it out every day. And we'll wrap up around 26 this year, and it still feels early.
That's great. Take me back in time. So you're a kid, you're working for your dad, presumably. What was that like? How did it impact you?
Yeah. So I worked, I always liked money. I always liked the independence of having money. So I would help around the shop, or I started working like during the summer. I would work all day, like 40 hours a week or whatever, from I think it was 10 on, because it was fifth grade. The projects were pretty low lift. So it'd be like, hey, can you move this pile to this pile, or can you sweep the floor? You know, that type of thing. I did learn quite a bit, though. I was able to repipe my first home at 16, so that was fun. We were on a mission trip, and I was able to help them figure out the plumbing. So yeah, that obviously shaped me a lot. Most of it was, you know, easy access to a job. I'm not immune to the fact that I took over a family business, so there's some nepotism there. But yeah, in high school, I helped out a lot around the shop. I went on jobs with some of the plumbers, and at 18, I had a working knowledge of plumbing, a very elementary knowledge, but I had a working knowledge. And by 19, I was running my own truck. So I was a fully fledged plumber, came into your house, figure out how to solve problems. So yeah, that early, you know, you asked about the sort of what it was like. It was helpful. I exited high school with a trade. So it was great.
You were well on your way at that point. Was it always your plan?
No. No. When I first graduated high school, I went to school for graphic design, and I was in my mind, my mom still asks about that. I was actually at her house over the weekend, and she was like, "What if you'd become an artist?" And I was like, "Mom, I have 140 employees. I feel like I've done okay." But she's like, "I wish." And I like to think that you know, the business is my canvas to be creative. But yeah, so it was not always the plan. I went to school originally for graphic design. I actually had to drop out pretty early on because I had some health concerns that took about a year and a half to work through my life. And then I went back to school again for HVAC. I'm not very good at school. School wasn't really interesting to me, so I dropped out of that again. That one was just because I wasn't very interested. And I ended up going to school for a third time for about 2.5 years. I didn't finish any programs, but it was for accounting. It was a local community college. It cost me about $6,000 out of pocket. But you would be amazed what a community college can do for you. So it was really helpful, gave me a working foundation on how to do everything we do today.
Very cool. And what about your path to leadership? So the decision to purchase the business from your dad in 2016, was that one that happened all at once? Was it baked in for a period of time? How did that play through?
Yeah. So when I was in my early, so first off, I bought the business young. I like to think I'm still young, but it depends on the day. I bought the business when I was 25. It's not because I was brilliant or anything, amazing about me. My dad happens to be 40 some years older than I am. So he was looking for an exit as I was looking for an entrance. So he was in his mid 60s preparing to retire, and he was trying to figure out the transition for his business. So, right place, right time. So when I went to school for accounting, I was 21, and I was a plumber during the day, and I would go to school at night, figuring out how to do this. And when I originally went, the idea was actually to get out of the business. I was feeling pretty unfulfilled as a technician in a truck. I didn't feel like I was using my brain the way that I would have liked to. I like to be challenged. I like to be intellectually stimulated. I like puzzles. I like games. And I didn't feel like I was getting that from what I was doing. So, and I also felt pretty trapped because by that point I had dropped out of college twice, soon to be 3 times. And so I went to school for accounting, and that was sort of like my ticket to step out of the family business. My dad and I were not talking about acquiring it at that time. I got married at 23, and my wife's amazing. Still married 10 years later. Got married at 23, and sort of in that process, I started to really get ready for whatever the next step of my life looked like. And from going to school for accounting, I had a better understanding of how a business should or could look. And I started to see what opportunity lied in front of me. I mean, looking back, obviously, I didn't know anything, but I started and I sure gave it a shot. So that seemed to be the more important part. But yeah, was not the original plan. We ended up there. We started talking about buying the business when I was 23, and I actually started running the company when I was 24, which I acknowledge is young, and it's not because I'm brilliant. I was at the right place at the right time.
Well, very different company, 8 techs to now having over 140. So certainly different organization today than it was 10 years ago. And so I'm curious about if that happened brick by brick all at once. Was there an inflection moment?
Yeah.
Take us back in the journey. What's that been like for you?
Yeah. It was slow and then all at once. Yeah, it takes a different skill set, and I'm learning every day. So I'm not, I think it's, this isn't like a false humility. Like I really have such a long way to go on leadership, and anybody that works directly with me would tell you the same thing. I have so much more to learn, and what has been exciting is the further we get as a company, and the bigger and better hires we're able to bring into the organization. They almost coach you back, which is very helpful. Because a decade ago, I was literally fixing toilets. So, you don't come out of the womb knowing how to run a $30 million organization. And even running one, I would say, arguably, I don't know how to run one. So they really coach you back, which is helpful. So as you bring on team leaders or executives in HR or accounting or inside operations, you learn a lot from them, which has been the most impactful over the last few years. But the journey was, felt fast at the time, and as a percentage, it was fast. But now looking back, it's like that was not crazy. But we did about $1 million the first year, 2016. We did maybe 1.6 or 7 the second year, so 70% growth. Felt like a lot at the time. In early 2018, we bought a business that was about to go bankrupt in February, and we basically doubled the team size, which was a pretty big adjustment for me. I went from having 11 employees to 27 overnight, and I was 25 or 26, and nearly everyone was twice my age. And suddenly I had managers, which I had never had a manager before. So that was a really big adjustment in my professional life of learning how to work through other people in order to get the results that I wanted. We grew. So that year we did about 2.9. That was 2018. 2019, we grew a little bit more. A lot of it was just learning curves. Like, how do you work with managers? How do you begin to market? How do you hire people? I had never really done that before. I tend to learn by trial through fire. So 2019, we grew. I think we did 3.4 in 2019. And looking back now, it is kind of funny because I thought that we had hit the cap of our market at $3.5 million, which obviously we didn't. But you just don't know what you don't know. So in 2020, convinced that I'd hit the cap of our market, we expanded into a new market, which was Cleveland, we were just south of Cleveland, and we had never done Cleveland before. And we added on an auxiliary service, which is water remediation. Obviously, I was not right about the cap of our market. Our market could comfortably host a $100 million brand. So, we're at 3% of our cap. But that was a big learning curve because in 2020, we added a new location, a new market. I had to figure out how to drive brand in a market that had never heard of me before. We had to figure out how to add a new trade, which was water mitt. And we had bought a few other very small brands during this time, maybe 3 or 4. So that was still the slow part. I think we finished 2020, maybe 4.5 million, maybe a little bit higher. The big growth came later. So in 2021, we acquired 3 businesses, mostly in Cleveland, and the business tripled within about 5 months. We went from 32 or 33 employees to 105 from July of 21 to December of 21. And basically every 90 days, we did a new acquisition. And obviously, as you can imagine, that was a lot. We were still very juvenile. 32 employees, 33 employees. You don't really have an accounting team yet. You don't have a marketing team. You sure as hell don't have a HR team. And you're just a couple guys trying to figure it out. So that's what we were. I was blessed to have really amazing team members, many of which are still here today, that helped me to figure it out. But that was a really big learning curve where, as you'd expect, everything broke. And suddenly we had to go from this sort of small, one market, 30-some employee company to figuring out. It felt a lot like 2018 when I learned how to lead leaders. This was leading leaders who led leaders. So now there was another degree of separation. And the next 2 years was just digesting. So we still grew a lot. I think we ended at 7 million in 21, 13 million in 22, 18 million in 23, and 26 or so this year. So we have still been growing a lot, and part of that is we still feel so early on this because we had a decade of growth in like 36 months. So there's some things that would come naturally to other companies that that's just still pretty new for us. Like, hey, we've only had a functioning accounting department as a $26 million company for maybe a year, maybe, and that would be generous. We've only had a functioning marketing department for a year. Actually, we built it last August. So that's why a lot of this feels early, is we have this a ton of momentum, and we're just figuring out the very basics of running a business.
Where do you as a leader spend your time?
A few different core spots. So I have a couple teams that direct to me. And so I'll tell you how I spend my time, and I'll tell you how I probably should spend my time. The teams that direct to me are marketing, accounting, and HR. My general feeling there is I want to control our growth through marketing. I want to hire the people when I want through HR, and I have to be able to pay for it through accounting. So it's just, I'm a simple guy. So those teams direct to me. Something that I'm really, really working hard to get better at, and I'm not doing a good job of right now, which is where I should be spending my time. I should be spending my time helping accelerate our leaders' development. And that's a place that I'm really falling short. I'm falling short mainly because I'm still working to prioritize it. Just in the last 18 months, we've added a whole line of frontline leaders, which has changed our leadership structure quite a bit. And when you go from a 3-tier org chart to a 4, and now we're at 5, so I have 4 layers of separation between me and 90% of the organization. It's challenging to figure out how you fit in that as the leader. What should I be doing every day? How do I spend my time? And so much of what I want to do, because of how my brain works, is I want to figure out the next big puzzle. I want to figure out the next big challenge. I want to, go break a paradigm or figure out the step shift, which has to happen through the teams that direct to me. But we also have to communicate our vision and communicate our values and build up our existing leadership that are frontline and senior leaders into whatever the best version of themselves they can be. So that's something that I'm working hard at getting better at, because frankly, I've just fallen short.
Yeah, I think all of us as leaders have this challenge around how do you empower people to be their best. And oftentimes you want to get pulled in to try to solve the problem, and
Yeah.
you can find yourself undermining the people that you brought on board to solve it in that respect.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And we had Tommy Mello on our show like a month ago, and he said something that like lives rent free in my head now. And it was the hustler had to die and the leader had to be born. And that runs through my head almost every day now, because I'll start to do something where it's like scrappy. And I'm like, yeah, like I like this. I like this sort of like, we're still scrappy. We're still whatever, I can drive a cruise ship like a Sea-Doo. But the reality is like part of that has to die. Like we still have to push. We still have to get to the next level. We still have to do what we have to do. But I now am working to be the person that gets things done through layers of other people, which I find challenging.
would you mind sharing about a recent challenge you've had on helping to lead through people and how you've been brokering your way through it?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say an easy one at the moment. One of our departments, HVAC service, has been struggling with their average ticket and conversion. It's no secret to anybody on that team. We talk about it a lot. HVAC, we were plumbing first, and I just know plumbing the best because that's what I did. And electric runs like a plumbing department. So electric and plumbing are really similar. We have those pretty dialed in. HVAC is a totally different animal that I'm not super familiar with. So, which is challenging because it produces $10 million of revenue a year. So it's this department that it's honestly a good test of leadership. I failed it, but it's a good test of leadership where like I really do have to rely on the people that I bring in any layer of that department, because I genuinely do not understand that trade. Like I don't know. I don't have the answers on how to solve that. And what I will frequently find myself doing is looking for the answers. And the reality is I'm not going to find them. Like I'll find some variation of it, but my time is better suited to working with the amazing people that we hired that already have the answers in their heads. Like they already know, like they know, they have 20 years of learning that like, what am I going to get from a podcast or a blog or like anything that's better than the person that's been doing it for 20 years and they already know the steps. So I'd say that that's an example pretty easily of, hey, I want to go solve it. And I'm not trying to be sort of generic, but the Who Not How book also lives pretty rent free in my head of like, hey, this is a problem. And I have like a bias for action, right? Like ran a company at 24, bought it. Like I just tend to do things that I think are the right decision. And so that means, and I like challenges and puzzles. So that means when I'm presented with a challenge, my brain immediately unpacks it. I want to solve it. I just like to do that. And what I'm attempting to do, depends on the day, if I'm good at it, is instead of me solving it, like, how do I identify the right person to solve this problem? Because they will do it better. Like, because of the demands on my time, because of the demands on my attention, I am not capable of putting in the time that this problem needs, which, like, the difference between doing it well and badly is probably $3 million a year. So, like, it's a big enough problem to, like, hey, maybe we should figure this out. And my first inclination is just to go solve it when I instead need to be either leaning on the people that I've already brought in to solve it better than I currently am, maybe removing roadblocks, figuring out what the gap is, like why is it still an issue, or bringing on leaders that are capable of solving that. Does that make sense?
Well, it definitely does. And it's such an important problem and one that, frankly, I talk to business owners every day, and it's a pretty recurring challenge. So you go to your leaders of your HVAC service department, you say, you're the expert here, I want to really empower you. What do they tend to diagnose as what's going on to contribute to those lower average tickets, lower conversion rates?
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a team that's struggling, it's there's only a few like core problems. You either have a bad culture inside that team, and that there's a few different things that can come, that can start that. You haven't had enough training, or the leader of the team is the one holding it back. So that's really it. Like, we can overcomplicate it as much as we want, but like when I'm looking at a team that's struggling, those are the three things I start with.
And drilling into the training element of it, what do you typically see as the gap? Where do people fall short?
Yeah, I would normally say not enough. And then if you are doing it enough, it's just not transparent enough. So in March of this year, we were having an issue with conversions inside our electrical service department. That department's about a $5 million a year department. That's important. It matters. Their conversions matter. And we just were converting at about half the rate. So we want to see a 65% conversion rate. We were seeing in the mid 30s. So obviously pretty big gap. And so we're trying to diagnose the problem. And I'm like, okay, the leader, like, this is not the leader. The leader has buy-in. The team, like, it's not the leader. I think we're good there. Next, we look at the team. The team's bought in. Like, they're winning. They're excited. They're excited to be here. They're thankful for the opportunity. Like, the culture in that team is great. It still is. It's an awesome team. So it's like, okay, it's training. So like, let's take a look at the training. And what we find is we're doing one training a week, and it's more of a lecture style training instead of like anything else, really. So what they started doing was they just created some transparency around training. They would crack open an invoice from yesterday and talk about what we could have done better. They would listen to recordings of that call so they knew what to do better. And they would give each other feedback, and you can't really do that without a good culture in the team and a strong leader, because you have to sort of trust that you're not going to beat each other up. But like, hey, yeah, here's my call yesterday. Here's what I feel like I did really good. Here's what I did feel like I did bad. What do you guys think? How could I have improved? And their conversions went back to what they should in like 2 weeks.
One thing I also hear you saying there is like the reinforcement of the training.
Yeah.
So it's the way you get reminded of this is what good looked like, and the affirmation that comes with the positive.
Frequency has been a big learning for us. It is really tempting to solve a problem and move on. And you have to like fight that. Typically is like the leader, you have to fight that, even if you're leading other leaders. So that was a challenge because they fixed their conversion problem, and the first inclination was, oh, okay, we fixed it, so let's do less training. It's like, no. We will have that problem again in 60 days if we do less training. Like, we have to continue doing more training. This has to become a part of what we do. So that was a test for daily training, which we've been doing ever since across all of the teams, and the impact has been huge.
Would you mind sharing some about how you invest in technology in pursuit of that goal, reinforcing training, reinforcing coaching?
Yeah. So our system as a business is built around training and then accountability of that training. So we're going to train on something. Our software basically tells us everything that could ever happen. And then we hold accountable to what we said we wanted and what you said you would do. So that technology, we're constantly looking for new, different ways to do that. And it depends on the team. In call center, we're using like an AI coach that listens to every call and gives you, hey, here's your rubric for 100% graded call. Here's what you missed. Here's what you did great. Let's iterate. We have something really similar for our field professionals. So it listens to every call. It records a lot of the interactions. So then you can, turn around and coach on it. Our CRM offers a lot of transparency into what we're doing. Most of that's outcome based. So, hey, it's like very qualitative or quantitative, whereas, because you have to hit both. If I didn't say that, but like it has to be measurable, but in order to be it has to be good and it has to be measurable. So if I said, hey, you have to give 3 options on every sales call, you could give 3 really terrible options, right? That's like, yeah. So that's what happens. So if you have to manage and train to behavior, which is quality, and outcome, which is quantity. So we try to cover both of those sides with our training. So inside call center, we know how many calls you take a day. We know the number and percentage that you book. We have every metric in the world, but none of those metrics tell us quality. They just tell us the outcome. So then we have to get something on the So, okay, what inputs are you providing that make these the outputs? So maybe you're not saying the greeting the way that we like it, or maybe you're not asking them if they want their healthy home. But it's really hard to coach to outcome because, like, what are the behaviors that are leading to that outcome? So you have to cover both. So that's our general philosophy. And pretty much every team we try to cover both. We always know the score. The score is sort of the easy one to find out. The quality, the inputs that get you to that score is the hard one.
We talk to business owners all the time who are wrestling with that problem. How do you really measure quality with technology? What have you found is the most effective way to do so?
Record everything. It's not complicated. It's just expensive.
And then is your expectation that your managers are reviewing those recordings, that the individual technicians are going back and reviewing? How do you think about what to do with those recordings?
Yeah, sort of all of the above. Like a bought-in team member, someone that's really living our values every day, would want that recording. They would want to know the score, and they would want to know how to beat their score. So we shouldn't need to urge you to want to be better.
What do you find is your compliance rate right now of the percentage of time people are recording?
It depends on how new the software is. For our field software, adoption rate has been a challenge. A lot of that is, it's weird. It's new, right? Like, hey, what do you mean it's recording me? So I think right now we're at 80%, but we're 60 days in and it's been steadily increasing. And then call center is just 100. That's just not that complicated, right?
Right.
Phone calls have been recorded for decades.
Yep.
But adoption rate in the field's been lower, but we're getting there. Because as people start to see the benefit of, if I can fix my behavior, my sales will go up. It's a pretty easy conversation.
I'm sure a lot of your listeners may be familiar with the behavioral psychology concept of the Hawthorne effect. My team and I would talk about it frequently, but it's this concept that if you know you're being recorded, it changes your behavior, in part because you feel some anxiety about it, or it's difficult to be natural. And typically we see around the 5th occurrence of a recording, there's a change in behavior where the Hawthorne effect bleeds off and the person now feels much more natural and doesn't have the same mental block around being recorded. Yeah. And I'm curious if that shows up for your team too.
I think so. I think the first couple times it was just sort of like, whoa, this is weird. What do you mean? But then after that, they got into it pretty quick. Again, the people that have adopted it early have seen the results. But yeah, those first few times, it's more of a shock and awe. This is strange. How do I, comport myself? It being recorded. So yeah, we've seen that too.
Have you experimented with contests or competitions as ways of helping drive performance?
Not really. It's something that we would like to do. I'm personally not much of a contest person. That doesn't mean that I say no to them. It's just I'm never going to think of them. For me, it's always the game, and I always want to win. So I don't know. It's a daily score. So I just don't really think of them, but I know that they're starting to work on a few membership sales contests and a few others that I think will be fun.
Cool. Excited to hear how those play out. Excited
yeah,
how
me
those
too.
play out. Our mission at UpSmith is to help attack the skilled worker shortage, something that is really inhibiting growth for companies like yours. It's also, creating blocks for people to pursue dignified, purposeful, high pay work. And so I'm curious how it plays out for your team. What challenges are you encountering right now as it relates to skilled worker shortages, and like, how do you overcome them?
Yeah, we, so skilled worker shortage, there's layers. Yeah, there's layers to this. I think where you sit in the pyramid matters a lot for skilled worker shortage. So, obviously I'll start with, obviously there's a skilled worker shortage. We have never felt restrained by that shortage. Now, the way that happens is that we're at the top of the pyramid. So we're winning. So we can offer the best pay. We can offer the best benefits. We are the employer of choice. So whereas the people that really feel the skilled trade shortage are either in highly competitive markets, but like the reality is there will always be high competition for the best talent, like regardless of a shortage or not shortage, it's always going to be competitive for the top. But the people that really feel it are the people at the bottom. So what ends up happening is these companies become feeder companies, basically, where people get in, they start their career, and then that company probably doesn't have benefits, or it might not pay very well, or their training sucks, or their manager's a jerk, pick a thing. And so they end up feeding up, and they go upstream. So what we see that a lot, and we end up being the destination. So our goal, and we're pretty forward about it, is we want to hire the best that the market has to offer, and we want to pay them really well to deliver results. And because of that, we don't have much of an issue finding the people that we want. So now that said, if one day we're not at the top of the pyramid, we'll feel it more. But that hasn't happened yet.
I really appreciate that insight. It resonates with me. I think that high performers want to work at high performing companies, and you see it play out in every industry.
Winners want to work with winners. Like it's not complex. That's our entire recruitment strategy. Like, hey, do you want to work with, like, hey, you're the top guy at your current shop. What if I told you that you're in the middle or lower quartile here, and you're driven and you're ambitious and you want to prove that you can be the best? Well, the best is here. Like, we're outperforming your current company 3-1. How about you come over here and like see what it's like to work with winners? Because it is a totally different experience. Working with people who are driven and pushing and aiming to dethrone incumbents than it is working in a sleepy, slow-moving company.
Yeah, it's intoxicating. It makes you better.
Yeah, it
makes
does.
you better. And that only comes across.
Yeah, it's sort of I realize it's not like a very helpful answer. And in my mind, the thing to take away is make yourself an employer that people would want to work at. And if you're in doubt, like, can you easily hire? Like, that tells you. And it's a lot of these like, you don't think of them as recruitment decisions, but everything is signaling. So me being on LinkedIn, me having a podcast, you know how many people walk into that interview and they've already listened to stuff that I put out talking about our growth? And it's not just leaders. It's like, I had a technician come the other day and just like, hey, I've heard I listened to the last 10 episodes. I read your newsletter. I'm not applying anywhere else. What does it take to work here? So that's signaling. I'm signaling to the world, hey, we're going to $100 million. Like, we are people of achievement. Are you a person of achievement? Is this going to work for you? Where we're physically located. Like, are you located in a place that people would want to go to? Does the building look like somewhere that people would want to go? Do you invest in your facilities at all, or are you in a storage barn? Real question, because we've bought a ton of companies that run out of like a barn, like a storage barn. So it's these things you don't think about as decisions, like your location, or like at our old location, people would actually drive up and leave. Like they wouldn't come to the interview. Like we would watch them pull into the parking lot, look around, and turn around. Like these are recruitment decisions, like where you physically locate, what your building looks like when you pull up. How do your trucks look? People want to drive new trucks. So all these like operational decisions are recruitment and marketing, but recruitment.
Wise words. Everything's a decision about how you project the brand that you want to build, and the bat signal you want to put in the sky to have folks come over and join the team.
Yeah, you're signaling.
That jumps across. Totally. We'd love to close by asking a couple lightning round questions. This has gone by really quickly, and I've learned a ton. I'm sure our listeners have too. I'd love to hear from you a book or something you've read that changed how you thought about something recently that you would say is worth the read for somebody to spend time on.
Who Not How. I referenced it earlier. That really did like it's like the title basically tells you, so you don't even have to get that far. But I think for most people that have like this like really strong bias for action, like I see like a firefighter mentality, this was really helpful for me. And it helped me focus a lot more on the leader themselves instead of the problem. And that's helped take us up a couple notches. So Who Not How. Big recommend.
Any productivity hacks, things that you do that help you produce more?
No. Literally, I'm the worst at that. I don't have an assistant. I barely check my email. So actually, maybe don't check your email. You'd be amazed at what you could do if you don't check your email. No, not really. I do think and I don't know if I'm right or not. I'll tell you in a couple years. But every time I think I'm overwhelmed and I need an assistant, what actually probably needs to happen is I need to be delegating more, and I'm probably doing too much. So if I need a productivity hack, if I need to produce more, then I'm probably ignoring like my actual job, because I don't have anything to produce. Like my job is to coach and enhance and lead. And if I have a productivity hack, then that means I'm likely doing someone else's job.
Delegate more, it sounds like, is the productivity hack that you would
propose. Every time I'm like, man, I'm overwhelmed. I need to go get an assistant. We got to solve this. And then I like look at what I'm doing and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, this is literally not my job. Like, I have people on payroll to do this. And it could be anything. It's almost always problem solving.
If you could go back in time to give some advice to your 25-year-old self right after buying the business, what would you encourage younger John to do or think, or what advice would you give?
Yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. It has been the adventure of my life, taking a business from 1 to 26. And I'm sure it's going to be an adventure to go to the next stage. But I have had to learn almost every lesson there is in some of the most difficult ways possible. And I don't know that I would be capable of leading the organization today if I didn't get punched in the face a few times. So I wouldn't have changed a thing.
And I love that. I think there's a lot of things in the journey we learned that make us better for sure. And we learn more from the stumbles than you do from the victories.
I had to do my first layoffs at 26 because I made a mistake. I didn't make that mistake again. You cry yourself to sleep because you don't know what's going to happen the next day. It gets dark, but you learn. Figure it out. Yeah, I have always I've always liked the idea that there's no one there to save you and that the only way out is through. And I don't think I would have been able to take on that level of grit or the load of stress that comes with this every day without years of training. And the only way to train your stress and grit is by doing hard things.
Amen. Hard things make us better.
That's right.
John, our listeners, I'm sure, would love to learn more about what you're building and know where to follow you or how to help you. Where can they find you?
Yeah, we're all over the place. So we have a podcast, ownedandoperated.com. It is mainly me rambling every Wednesday on how the good or bad things going on in my plumbing and HVAC company. We're also on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter at the Wilson Companies. We have a newsletter, but ownedandoperated.com, you'll find sort of most of it.
Ownedandoperated.com. I was grateful to be invited on the podcast myself. So you're generous to have us aboard. And I can attest that it is a great place to go and get smart about important things happening across the industry and how to make your business better.
Hopefully. We try. It's really, it follows my curiosity over the years from 3 million to mid-20s now. So it's not very step-by-step, but it is, it'll be an interesting case study in a couple years. Good or bad. Like, you'll see the decisions that led to the whole thing. Like, there's videos on YouTube. Yeah.
Worth checking out. Well, John, I'm grateful to have you aboard. Thanks for being so generous with your time. Thanks for sharing about your story. And I would encourage all of our listeners to go learn more about the Wilson Companies and follow along on your journey.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
See you next time on Untapped with UpSmith.